So welcome everyone to our first Ustream of 2014. We are going to make a mixed media canvas tonight, and as always, I don't like to wait for things to dry, so I've already prepped my canvas, but I'm going to show you guys the technique on this little tag so that you know how I did it. So to start with, what I want to do is I have a paintbrush here, and I have some black gesso, and you could just use black paint, but I prefer the gesso because it's really thick, and I'm probably going to ruin my manicure tonight, but that's okay. And what you're going to do is just paint your background of your canvas. If you're using a canvas or your art journal, just go ahead and paint the whole thing black, and don't worry about covering complete coverage because you just want to give a good base coat. You're going to put so many layers on this that it isn't going to matter. I just don't want to see too much of the white, so it doesn't have to be super thick. I just want it to be black. And if you were starting out with a black canvas, you could certainly do that without having to gesso. Canvases that you buy in the store, if they are colored, then they are already pre-gessoed, so you don't have to. So I noticed that some of the art stores I've been going to, they've been carrying canvases that are already pre-painted with a background color, which is super cool too. So I want black because I'm going to do some brick, and a brick technique, and I want my brick to be black. Now I have done this before where I used a cream base and did a red brick. But on this particular canvas, I did a black mortar with a red brick. So it's your choice. If you are going to do the mortar being more of a natural color, then I would just paint the surface with the distress paint and the antique linen. So either option, whichever one you prefer. And then I'm going to do my best, my very best, to keep my work surface kind of clean tonight. This is just water, just plain water. So I'm going to clean up my desk real quick. If y'all hear barking from the other room, they're playing with the dog in there. So I hope everyone had a great holiday, Christmas, New Year's, and all of the above. I'm ready for 2014. I had a fantastic 2013, a lot of opportunities, a lot of great things were happening for me in 2013. So I'm excited for what 2014 brings me, but the theme for today's canvas is going to be baggage and removing things in your life that are, you know, just things you can't let go of, whether it's hoarding supplies, a bunch of scraps, an overwhelming creative space, just clearing out the clutter. Maybe it's something spiritual that you need to let go of, you know, mentally, physically. Maybe there's some family issues that you've been harboring and you need to let go of it. Whatever it is, the baggage. This is what today is about, is me removing the baggage. I was in church on Sunday, and our pastor did an awesome sermon on, you know, removing the baggage from 2013 to make way for 2014, because you can't move forward and have forward movement if you're carrying around all this baggage that just loads you down. So whatever it is, remove it. So today's canvas is going to be an inspirational piece that I'm going to hang in my room to remind me to not harbor things to let things go. And one of my biggest things that I need to let go of is my lack of confidence in certain areas in myself. So I really want this piece to be something that reminds me to just let go and let God be in control and take over. So I want this brick to be in the background, and I'll I'll talk to you guys about the symbolization of things as I move through, but I want to share this technique with you. My canvas is dry. This is just a piece, you know, if this was a canvas, this is a thin coat of black gesso for those that are just joining me. And then in a little tub, I have prepared some modeling paste, and it's just, you know, your typical modeling paste that you get in the craft section, and I just have a small amount of it here in this little tub. These are baby food jars. All my friends that are having babies, I steal these little baby food containers from them and use them for temporary paint storage. They're not completely airtight, but they do seal up for temporary storage. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time painting brick because I just don't have that kind of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a highly concentrated dye, such as these Delusional inks from Ranger. I love this one. This one is called Chocolate, I think. Let me look here. Hold on. It's called Melted Chocolate. And I'm just going to squirt some of this down in here until it's the right color that I want. Now remember that we're mixing it with white, so it's not going to be completely dark. I really am looking more for something that's kind of a medium red tone, because I'm going to darken it too later on, but I just want to mix this up. Now it does dilute down your modeling paste a little bit, but that's okay. You could really do this technique with gesso if you wanted to, but because I'm watering it down with pigment, I decided to go with the modeling paste because it's a little thicker. So I'm just going to mix that up really well. I want it to be almost the color of a medium colored fudge. And if you find that maybe this is just a little bit not really quite the color I want, let me see. I still got quite a bit of puddled up pigment down in the bottom there. It kind of looks like a mocha frosting a little bit. And this has a little more pinkish hue than what's showing up on the camera. But I've also got some walnut stain, distress stain, that I'm going to drop down in there too. Just a couple of, like a one stopper full. I'm going to mix that up because that's highly concentrated color as well. And see how it's getting a little darker? And it's getting me that nice rich brick color that I'm after. It's really starting to look like frosting, like chocolate frosting. That's the color I'm after. The nice thing about doing this on in this little tub is that if I end up with any left over, I'm not wasting it because I can put the lid on it and use it up. Now I can't store it for a really long time because it will dry out, but I can store it temporarily for a couple of days if I need to. So as you can see, I'm just taking it, scraping it off my palette knife and folding it into it, and it's this nice consistency of chocolate buttercream frosting. That's what it reminds me of. See? Good enough to eat. Like, don't lick this because it's probably not good for you, but I want to. Okay, so for my canvas, I'm going to cover the majority of the canvas up with paper, but I'm going to go ahead and make my brick go all the way across, and there's a reason for it. Normally I tell you if you're going to cover it up, don't bother, but the reason I want to is because I want to have some peekaboo spots with my paper, so I want to be able to see that brick through those peekaboos. And my canvas is 8 by 10, but I still want this to look like a brick wall, almost like something like, do you guys remember time capsules where we buried them in the walls? That's where I'm kind of going with this. I want something that I can say, hey, there's a hole in that wall that I'm sending my problems to, or I'm sending my my baggage to, and I don't want it back. I'm getting it rid of it. I'm giving it to God, and I don't want it back, so I'm going to bury it. So I'm putting this brick on here, and I'm using a Crafter's Workshop brick stencil. In my very first Ustream, this was in the kit for the very first Ustream, and this is the 6x6. I find that I like the 6x6 stencils a lot better than the 12x12 because the 12x12 tends to get in my way a little bit. And I'm going to line that mortar up, and I'm going to do it one more time down here at the bottom just to finish it off. And I'm not making sure that I get it really thin. I kind of want it thick, and I want lots of texture on these bricks. I don't want them to be perfect. I'm going to spackle a little bit more of this in places here and there, because I want these peaks, especially around the edges, because the edges is going to be where you see the most of the brick. The center pieces are going to be covered up with paper, except for in a few strategic spots. But I really want this brick to have a lot of kind of really, you know, when you stand next to a brick wall, it has a lot of texture, and that texture is what builds the realism for me. So I'm putting that on there. I really want to cover up all these little inconsistent holes here and there. Doesn't this look like chocolate frosting? Just love it. Love it, love it. Now, you want to get this off your stencil immediately, because it will ruin your stencils. So I'm going to just scrape my knife, my palette knife here. I'm going to put the lid on this and put it to the side. I'm going to pick this up, put it off to the side over here, and let it dry for just a minute. Pick all of this up, because you don't want to waste this modeling paste. There's no need for it. So I'm going to just stick it right back in here. And I ideally would get up and go to the bathroom that's right next door to me and clean off my stencil at this point. But since I don't have, I'm in here with you guys, I'm just going to wet my surface and wipe it off with a paper towel, and then make sure I put it in some soapy water to get that off of there when I'm finished with the show. So you want to make sure you're cleaning your stencils really well after you use modeling paste or gesso on them, because it will get buildup on the stencils and, you know, prevent them from doing a good job. This stencil has been used. You can tell it's like one of my all-time favorites because it's got a lot of stains on it. Alright, so I'm going to put this to the side because I don't need it anymore. After you do this, now ideally at this stage, what I did was I like to let my canvas just sit and cure and let this modeling paste dry. And I've got plenty of other things I need to be doing, so that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to take that and put it to the side and let it dry, and then we'll come back to it a little later. For those of you who are new to my show, you know that, well, the veterans know that I typically do things in stages. I try to think it out as much as I can, and I like to get all of my wet mediums and do them first so that I can put them to the side and let them dry, and then I come back to them later on, and so I don't have to run the heat gun a lot. So now I'm going to take my distress paint. This is the walnut stain distress paint, and you want to shake these stains up really well. Hi Jordana, I've missed you, sweetie pie. Are you freezing your tushy off? Now, this is the Tim Holtz Valise die. Let me get the rest of the pieces out here. And my canvas is kind of small, so I don't think I'm going to need the whole valise, but I do want the suitcase. I want the look of the suitcase. Excuse me. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, a cough in your... So this is what I have. All these little pieces go on it. Let me see. I'm going to use my suitcase sort of as a metaphor for storing up my baggage and getting it out of the way. So I'm going to put all of my baggage into my suitcase and store it away. So this is what the die looks like when it's cut out. Now, because my canvas is kind of small, I don't think I can use the whole valise. But I don't want to limit myself just yet. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and color the whole thing, and then if I need to cut it down, I can. So I'm going to use the distress paint in the walnut stain, and I'm going to go ahead and put one coat of that onto this die cut. And I want to make sure I'm getting the edges, I'm getting a good complete coverage, because we're going to make this look just like leather when we're done. It's going to look like a leather suitcase, an old tattered leather suitcase. So you just want to make sure you got a really good coverage, and that needs to dry. So I'm going to put that to the side, and then I'm going to color. Now I'm going to color these extra pieces. I'm running out of room for things to dry, and I need these to be gold. All of these pieces, which I think I'm only going to use 2 of these buckles. I think I don't think I'm going to have room to write what I want to write and then use all of them. So I'm just going to put 2 of them to the side. And I want to take my tarnished brass distress paint. And if you don't have the distress paints, you can use regular acrylic paint. Just make sure you're shaking them up really well. It's only 3 degrees. Oh my goodness, I'm dying. It's like 40 degrees and I want to die. I mean, excuse me, 20 something degrees and I want to die. Seriously. If it was 3 degrees outside, I don't think I'd leave my house. I mean, I would have to lose my job because I wouldn't get out of bed. I don't think I'd get out of bed. But I was telling Peggy this afternoon too that in Florida, we're really just not prepared for 20-degree weather. So it's really hard for us because our clothing isn't geared for 20-degree weather. Like, I don't even think I could buy a wool coat if I wanted to. We're just not prepared for that. Okay, so those are painted. What else do I need to paint? Oh, another thing I want to use tonight is I have just a stopwatch here to represent time. You know, it's time to let go of the past or let go of the baggage. And I'm going to take some Tattered Angels and Antique Brass. I don't like the white that's inside of here. And guys, this was just like a little dollar bin type stopwatch. You could use the Prima wooden clocks. You could use anything in your stash. I think timepieces are kind of one of those things that everybody has in their stash. And I'm just going to take this antique brass glimmer mist that's clogged at the moment and I'm just going to paint the face because the face is really stark white and I don't know that I want it to be that white. So I'm just going to put a little coat on here just to kind of darken this up a little bit and make it not be so in your face bright. I want it to have that antiqued kind of look. And like I said, you could use the wooden clock pieces too from Prima. Those would be super cool on here too. In Marion's other collections, there's a bunch of timepieces that you could cut out if you wanted to just keep it flat for like an art journal page rather than a canvas. So let me just dry that really fast. And I'm going to go ahead and dry these because these next steps, I want all this to be really dry before I do the next step. Let me pull all these pieces up here and just go ahead and hit them with my heat gun really fast. And we're not going to use this for a while, so I'm just going to put it to the side. But the distress paint stays really wet for a long time, so I want to make sure that it's good and dry. Once it's dry, it's for good. It's permanent. There's no need to seal it or anything. I will say the distress paints have like a chalky finish to them, so if you like the chalkboard look, you could definitely turn distress paint into chalk paint. Does anybody have any questions so far? I'm in my sweatshirt tonight, my sweatpants, and I've got socks on and my fuzzy slippers, and I'm about to freeze to death. Seriously. I don't know how you guys do it. Hey Ramona. Hey Donna. Leslie! I missed you, Leslie. Okay, so this is pretty dry right here. Oh, this heat feels good. Maybe I should just turn my heat gun on and stick it under the desk like a heater. These are not, I don't think this one is completely dry yet, but I'm going to put them to the side for right now. Then I'm going to take, the first time I thought about doing this, I was going to use the Distress ink, but I want this to be permanent because I'm going to be using a lot of things on it. So I grabbed out my coffee archival ink, and Another option, but this is brand new and I don't want to ruin it with getting paint all over it, but another option would be this surface paint from Colorbox, and also stays on. You could use it as well. But I really like the look of this, and all I'm going to do is take my ink pad and just very gently rub it right over the surface of this suitcase. Just very lightly rub it right over the surface like that. And notice how it's starting to pick up the textures. I really love the way that looks. It already is starting to look like leather. But the real magic comes when you add the next step. Hold on, let me get my cover back on here. And I want this to be really good and dry, so I'm just going to hit it one more time. We have a full house tonight. Hi, Lena. It looks just like suede, but we're not finished. Wait till I do the next coat, then it's really gonna look like leather. Then I'm gonna take my jet black archival ink. Now watch the magic happen. Watch. I'm gonna come right around these edges and really just rub that in. See how dingy it starts to get? Look at that. Isn't that cool? And I'm going to come right over the top again, but very lightly, because I don't want it to be black. I really just want the texture of it to look torn. And then I'm going to come back before that has a chance to dry and just take a cosmetic sponge and blend it out. Just kind of blend it in really well. And just remember, if this was a suitcase, it would be really dark around those edges. It would really, because that's where the most of the traffic goes. It gets tattered. But now, this is where the magic happens. And I forgot to pull it out. Let me get my sandpaper up here. Where's my sanding block? There it is. Whoops, things are falling. Pardon my big old gut if you can see it. You're going to take your sanding block, and not on your Tim Holtz mat. Don't do it on your mat. I'm going to pull it off. Let me see if I can pull my mat up for just a second. You want to move your mat out of the way because you don't want to do this on your mat. Can you guys still see me? And you want to take your sanding block and you just want to hit some of the areas around the edges really well, because the edge is where, think about if it was a suitcase, the edge is where it would be hitting all the time. It's a tattered, it's torn, rough, it's not new, and just kind of get those edges and put some divots in it. Now, look at this. We've exposed the chipboard on there. This is where we're going to come back with, where to go? My archival coffee, and I'm going to rub into those areas with this coffee. Really good. Get them really good and dark. For me, I feel like art is about layers. It's about every time I look at something, I want to see something else. I'd never want to grow tired of looking at it. I want to constantly be inspired by the things I see in it. So these little small details like this are what build the realism for me. Then I'm going to come back again with my coffee, and my jet black, and I'm going to really hit those edges again. And it's just going to darken that paint up just a little bit more. Now look at this. Put those out of the way because I don't need them. Clean up my surface. I'm trying really hard to keep everything clean and neat because I don't want anything on my paper when I pull my light colored papers out. So I'm going to clean that up really fast. I'll pull this back and look at this. Look at how cool this is. Timmy needs to see this. Y'all send Timmy the tape. Okay, so then once I've done all of that now, it's all tattered and everything, it's going to really come to life. I'm going to take, where's my sponge, and I really want to work those colors in. Get it really in there and really help them to mix up really well. Really work them in and smooth them out. And then we're going to come back and add a coat of our matte medium. And I'm just using Liquitex's matte medium. This is the fluid one. You could use the thicker one. You could use the clotting helmet. I'm out of clotting helmet. I need to order some more. But you want to really give a really nice, good coat on here. But you want to make sure that you are keeping these in one direction, that you brush in one direction, because you don't want too many lines on here, and then when this dries it's going to look just like leather. And this is an awesome technique for mini album covers too. If you guys wanted to do that instead of this valise, you could definitely do this for the mini album cover. But I want you to look at this. It almost looks like wood grain. It also looks like you know, if you look at it going this way, it kind of has that wood grain look. It looks like suede or leather. Oh, it's freezing in here. Are you kidding me? It's freezing in here because I have no heat or air in here. This is like a porch. Now, I've taken this cosmetic sponge, and in a circular motion, I'm just going over that matte medium, and that's just helping to get rid of my brush strokes. Look at this. Isn't this cool? And it's almost completely dry. Isn't that cool? Okay, so there's one technique that we're going to learn tonight. Now we need to do the same thing on these little pieces because these are just too brassy for me. So I want to tone these down as well, and I'm going to do the same technique. So I'm going to start with my coffee. And I'm just going to rub right over the edge. Same thing with this. Look at how a huge difference. Look at the difference in that. Just, I don't even know if you can tell in video, but huge difference with just putting the coffee on there. It just gets it really good and tarnished looking. And I might not use the black on this one because this is supposed to be gold, and I don't know that I really want black on it. But it really helps. You can still see the metallic of the gold from the paint, but it kind of gives it a little more of an antiqued technique. Honey, this is grunge at its finest, and I believe I was a grungy girl before I was ever anything else. I love to get dirty. I love to really get my fingers all into this grunge. Now, just like before, I want this to dry really well. Then I'm going to come back with my sanding block, and I'm just going to hit some areas of this and sand it off. And I'm going to try really hard not to sand my fingernails. And I'm really going to get in there and just really grind it on some areas because it needs to be tattered. And the same thing with the handle. Actually, it'd be a little more torn right there. Don't sand on your mat. Don't sand on your mat. Same thing here. Just get a little texture. That when you use your sanding block on something like this, what happens is it kind of scrapes away a little bit of the chipboard, and it gives it that rough texture, so it's not completely smooth. Okay, now we're going to come back. We've done all of that. We're going to come back with this. Same technique as before. we're just going to hit those high areas and darken them up. And look at how that makes it look like rusted metal, tarnished brass. Love the grunge. Think about it too on a handle. You're going to touch this handle an awful lot. So if it's a suitcase. So because I'm going to be touching it a lot, there's going to be little darker areas here where the oils from your hands are tarnishing that brass. Getting dirty tonight. We're getting dirty tonight here on the Ustream with Tonya. Does anybody have any questions right now? How is everybody doing? Everybody following me so far? Now, just like we did with the other pieces, I'm going to add a little matte medium to these as well, because I don't want them to rub clean for sure. And one thing I'm going to do is I keep these little, these are those little, what do they call them, clamshell pieces from packaging, and I keep them to use as palettes on my desk because it helps me, you know, if I want to keep a little thing of gesso or matte medium going, I can easily do that without having a huge mess on my desk or a big puddle off to the side that I'm going to put paper in eventually and mess up. So I keep those, and then at the end of the night I can toss them if I need to. And you know, I feel like I was going to toss it anyway, but this way it's getting some good use before I have to toss it. And this matte medium, really what it's doing is it's kind of sealing this stuff so it doesn't rub off, or you don't risk messing anything up. You know, you're just kind of sealing that chipboard and making it a little more permanent, especially if you're going to use this for a canvas. It helps for if you have to dust or do anything. It's good to have a really nice good coat of matte medium on everything. Now, with this said, I've done all of these little pieces, and look at how awesome they look. To me, this clock is just a little too perfect. So I feel like it needs a little more attention. So I'm going to take the same archival ink and I'm going to hit over the top of it with the archival ink. And what this is going to do is it's going to kind of tone down the brass that's on the clock as well, and just kind of help to make it a little more tattered too. And I may have to use the black on it as well. And I have a couple of different ink pads up here. One of them is that I can scrape, and one is for stamping. So I don't stamp with the one that I use in my mixed media stuff. Okay, so I'm going to put all of this to the side now, and I'll let it all dry and come back to it in a few minutes. Stick it back up here. Wipe off my surface again because I need to get all of this off, because I don't want my paper, when I go to use my paper, I don't want to mess it up. I love these mats because I can clean them up relatively quickly. I have 2 bottles on my desk. I have one is an alcohol solution, and one of them is water. So the blue, if you see me pull the blue container, that's alcohol, and I usually use it to, like, I'll get everything basically up with the water, and then I'll grab my alcohol and I spray it on my surface, let it sit for just a second, pull out a paper towel and wipe up the surface, and that just kind of helps to get up some of these things like the archival ink that's more permanent. But because my hands are really dirty, I also will hit my fingers a little bit and get that off of there too. Normally I wouldn't care, but I'm going to be touching some really light colored paper in a few minutes, and I don't want my fingers to be all black when I do that. Of course, I should have waited until I was finished with my brick, but just wanted to share with you guys. Now, be careful if you spray alcohol, because alcohol really shouldn't be sprayed if you're using anything with any kind of heat around it, because it is flammable. And the problem with alcohol is that when it burns, it has no flame, so you have no idea you've just started a fire, basically. So be very careful. Alcohol probably shouldn't be sprayed, it should be poured. But anyway, now I still think that this clock on the inside needs to be just a little darker. I'm not really happy with the fact that it just kind of looks a little too perfect still. So I have this, what color do I want? Maybe, let me see if I can find it a little bit darker. Let's try Wheatfield, see what it looks like. I just want to darken that up just a little bit. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to let that just sit and soak in, because I think there's a coating on the top of that clock that's keeping this from absorbing too much. But see how that toned that down some? I just don't want to see that really stark white like that. Okay, so next thing we need to do is we're going to come back to our background. I got matte medium on there. No. And this modeling paste is kind of dry, but like I said, I would let this dry before I really messed with it too much. I would let it dry overnight, just to let it cure. You guys are liking this class so far? So my modeling paste is probably going to pick off in my textured areas just because it's not completely dry, and I don't want to sit here with this heat tool. Let's see if we can go on to the next step and get it just a little drier before I mess with it. So my idea is I have this baggage I want to get rid of, and on my cover of my valise, I want to write down all of the Bible verses and the scriptures that my pastor went over in church, because those are references for ways I can get rid of all of this baggage that I have. So I don't necessarily want to disclose what my thoughts are on YouTube or Ustream or whatever, because they're personal. It's my own personal thing. So what I've decided to do is, and because this is going to be hanging on my wall, and I wouldn't want someone to see what I've written and get the wrong idea, like maybe I'm, you know, pointing out somebody, or, you know, I don't want anybody to ever feel like uncomfortable that they've seen something hanging on my wall and take it the wrong way. So I've decided that the baggage that is in my heart, the things that I need to get rid of, are personal. They're not things that I necessarily want everyone in the world to see or know. It's between me and God. So I've decided to make a luggage tag for my suitcase, and my luggage tag is going to house my my baggage. I'm going to write it on here, and I'm going to stick it inside of my luggage tag where I know it's there. God knows it's there, but no one else knows it's there. So I encourage you, if you have something in your mind that, you know, you're holding on to, that's keeping you from being free to explore and do new things, and you know, for me, it's not necessarily that it's all negative. Some of my baggage is just that, hey, I have a hard time letting things go. I have a hard time trusting. I have a hard time, you know, having faith in myself. And, you know, so like I said, those things are between me and God, but they do hold me back. The whole time the message was going on, I was writing down, you know, these are my sermon notes. I take notes when I'm in church, and I was writing down what my baggage is in the margin off to the side, the things I need to, whenever I have my quiet time with God, the things I need to pray about and work on, I want to write on this tag. So what I'm doing now is I've just taken some antique linen distress ink, and I've kind of distressed up this tag a little bit, and I'm going to do both sides because you might be able to see both sides. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. So I'm just kind of giving this tag a little bit of color. I don't want it to be too much because I want to write on it. I'm not going to write on it in this class, but I'm going to make a pocket and I'm going to slip this inside my suitcase, and then I'll come back at the end before I hang this on my wall and I will put my baggage on here. But for now, this is my baggage, my baggage tag. And I'll put that to the side. Wipe up my surface again, make sure I don't have anything on it. So again, I'm just going to use like a black Sharpie and write my baggage down on here, but I'm going to do it later. But I needed my tag so I knew how much room to leave. The next thing I want to do is I needed something to represent me. So what I've done is in one of our Ustreams, our kit was the mixed media doll stamps from Prima. And this is one of the Julie Nutting dolls. And I'm not sure what her name is, but she's the one with the flowing dress. Now, these stamps are very long, so you almost need the Prima block. But what I've used is, this is my Sizzix plate. This is the plate. Oh, I'm so glad, Donna. I'm telling you, you have to give it to God, and you can't keep your problems to yourself. And if you're not a spiritual person, I don't know how you get through the day, because I couldn't do it. And one of the things about this message was, give it to God and leave it with God. Don't take it back. Once I put it in that suitcase, I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to move on. I'm putting all of those things in the past, and I'm moving on. So anyway, I went ahead and I've stamped this with Memento black ink, and then I went ahead and colored her face and her hair with my Copic markers. Now, this is not a Copic coloring class, so I'm not going to go into the details of how I colored it. It just takes too long. So I'm going to share with you guys the colors that I used to color her, and you guys can do this on your own. I used for her hair, I used the E37, E55, and E30. And then for her skin, I used E50, E11, E01, and R20. So those are the colors that I used. I'll hold them up, and I'll try and put them in the description down below if you're watching the video. I'll try and put them there. And then I just took a Sharpie and I drew out her face, because I can't stand dolls that don't have faces. They just drive me nuts. So I just drew some simple closed eyes, a little dot for a nose, and a little tiny mouth. Okay? Now, I didn't color her dress, and also note, if you're going to take the time to fussy cut something out, cut out the negative spaces. I really can't stand it when I see things that people have done and they haven't cut out the negative spaces. Because if she was real, you wouldn't see that space. I like the faces. It makes me crazy not to see them. No, Suzanne does not carry Copics, but she might be able to special order them. So, notice on her feet I didn't cut out the negative space because she's wearing high heels, but I think I'm going to cover her feet up with something so you won't see that, and I needed a platform to be able to glue her down. But what I want to point out is I am going to use paper to do her dress. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp her out again, but this time instead of using Memento ink, I think I might use archival ink instead, because I want to stamp it onto some paper that I'm going to fussy cut out. And I'm only going to worry about where her dress is. I'm not going to worry about inking anything else up, because that's really the only parts that I want. So of the garment district, I'm going to go ahead and use this piece that's called Remnants, and it's this beautiful blue color. I really wanted, this is my favorite color. So I'm just going to go over here. It's a piece of scrap from another project that I was doing. So I'm just going to come over here to the side, and I am going to I don't really care for feet hang off the side. I just want to make sure my pattern's going in the right direction. So I only want her dress. So I'm just going to take her and minimize what I'm going to stamp on the area. So I'm going to place it there and there and stamp. And I am so stamping challenged, guys. You have no idea. Yeah, they're kind of, there's a lot of minimums you have to do with Copics, and they're available in a lot of places, but I didn't want to speak for her. Okay, so that's a no on Suzanne special ordering Copics. So now all I'm going to do is cut out her dress. And I probably should have stamped this in Memento ink, but I didn't. And I'm going to cut out this ruffle that's on her dress because I don't really need it either. I'm going to do something different with the ruffle. I love how this paper is designed because even though it has this beautiful damask pattern to it, it also has this clock and this rustic background, so it makes her dress have a really interesting pattern when you cut it out. This is a great thing to do with scraps. If you guys have a big scrap pile, just go through your scraps and look for a pattern that you really like that would be a good dress pattern, and just use it. Don't waste a full sheet of paper. Like I said, this was actually, if you think about it, this was a piece of scrap because it was something that I had already had cut up. Okay, and then I'm just going to grab out, use your Memento ink, don't use your Stays On. I'm going to take my BV23 and I'm just going to go around where these little valleys are on the paper. I'm just going to take that BV and I'm going to just color just a little bit right around those edges just to give a little bit of a shadow on her dress. And I'm not spending a lot of time fussing with it because by the time I get all of the matte medium and stuff on it, you're not going to really see it too much. I just want to add a little bit of depth to her dress. And like I said, I'm not Copic certified. I'm not an expert at coloring. I just, you know, I'm winging it. I think that's why I didn't show you how to color her face, because I don't feel like I'm an expert, and I shouldn't be telling you how to color if I don't really understand it myself. So I just know that I really wanted to see a few more shadows on her dress just to give a little more detail, and you could seriously do this with any kind of gray colored marker. And then there's probably going to be a little ridge right here on her bodice where the base of her breast coming around, and maybe a little shadow coming down the side where her arm would be. And then maybe just across here. And see how that just gave that a little more depth? Not much. It's not a whole lot, just a little bit. So I'm going to put that one up there, and then maybe grab out my blender pen and just blend that out just a little bit. And like I said, don't use archival ink if you're going to use your Copics. I messed up. I shouldn't have done that because it'll ruin your tip. But I have a new tip here that I will end up replacing this tip with anyway, so I'm not worried about it. Okay, so now her dress is ready, and I want to go ahead and I'm going to take a little bit of this matte medium and I'm going to spread it right out onto her dress, and I want to get a good even coverage on her dress and make sure that everything is covered because I don't want it to lift in any way. And this is just the matte medium I had poured out on my little palette here. Then I'm going to take her, what did I do with my doll? I buried her. Did you guys see where? Oh, there she is. I'm going to take this dress and I'm going to stick it right on there. You want to make sure you get it in the right spot. Just like that. Pull it, make sure it's good and lined up before you glue it down, because if it's not, it's going to look goofy. Might want to start with her bodice because it's really thin. There we go. And then I'm going to take this matte medium and I'm going to put a really good solid coat over her entire body. Oop. And too, the matte medium kind of helps to blend some of that shadowing out too. It smears it a little bit. Just make sure she's good and coated. On the bottom side, go around. If you see any that is lifting up anywhere, go ahead and make sure it's good and tight. And there's my girl. I wish I looked this good. She's beheaded. Oh, because I cut her out. So there's my girl. Okay, so now again I want to clean this up really well. I don't want this residual stuff on here. And I'm going to put her to the side because I'm going to pull her out in a few minutes after she's dried a little bit. And I'm going to start working on my background because I want to show you guys how I did the background really quick. This is good and dry now. Again, some spots where it's really heavy is not totally dry, so be very careful. But I'm going to end up covering up a lot of that anyway. So what I want to do is I'm going to take my paper, and again, because I'm using such a small piece, I'm just going to use a scrap. And I want to kind of rough it out. It doesn't have to be exact. I want it kind of roughly the size of my project. So I'm going to come, and this is a Marion Smith technique that she has taught for the last year or so on her blog with her mini albums. So this is not a unique to Tonya kind of technique. But I'm just going to rip this paper. I want a really good torn edge, and you want to tear towards you if you want to see the white areas, which I do. And I'm just kind of getting a rough estimate. I want to see the brick around the edges, so I'm tearing away all of this extra that I don't need. Again, great project for scraps. Just lay it down. Okay, and then I decided on my canvas, I decided that I really wanted to see some holes where it looks like wallpaper has peeled back to expose the brick. And to do that, I'm just going to take and puncture a hole, and I don't care where, it doesn't matter where, and I'm just going to peel back some of those pieces. Okay, and I'm going to do it. Another up here. I like symmetry, so if I do it to one side, I like to do it to the other. If you don't like symmetry, then just do it in one spot. It's not important how many spots are exposed. You just don't want to do it too much because, you know, the object is the suitcase. The subject of my layout is the suitcase, not all of the paper in the background. One thing that Diane Reveley has told us in a class is that your background is your background. Don't fall in love with your background. It's meant to be in the background. So I like that. I want to maybe rip a little more off the bottom down here because it's just a little too close to the edge. And I really like how I can see the brick. See how it's kind of got that nice look? Make a hole, yes. Yes, Amish dolls and Quaker dolls do not have faces, but I have a problem with no faces. I like faces because they give character. Okay, so then this is another Marion Smith technique that I learned from her. And now I'm going to take my matte medium that I have here and put a little bit more. And then I'm going to take just an itty-bitty drop of walnut stain. And I'm going to mix it in with the matte medium. Let me get another palette knife up here. And what this is going to do, the matte medium is going to act as a varnish with the walnut stain. So it makes the walnut stain permanent and it makes it into a varnish. And I'm going to put just a little bit more because I'm going to need quite a bit of this. And you want to mix it up really good till it's a solid color. You don't want any streaks in it, although it will dry clear or dark chocolate brown. You want to make sure it's mixed up really well. And then you're going to take your paintbrush and you're going to run it right over these white areas. And like I said, this is a Marion Smith technique. This is not unique to Tonya Gibbs. But I'm going to stay close to the edge and I'm just going to color up those edges that white because I don't want to see white. I really want to see a dark. I want this dark. And I don't care what happens to the background or to the back, so I'm just going to turn it and I want to get it right into there really well. Now, where I did that with the paper, I want to kind of work it in on those edges. And I can come back and do another coat. I can always put another coat on there if it's too light, but I don't want it too dark where it covers up the color. And I'm just doing a circular motion. I can come back and add another layer. I just want to get my initial layer in there. And also you can use the stains to do this. You can use any ink you want. It doesn't have to be Distress. You know, once it mixes with that walnut or with that once it mixes with that matte medium, it becomes like a varnish. Okay, where's my sponge? And I'm just using cheap makeup brushes, makeup sponges. And the same way you do the Distress ink, the same technique, the circular motion, just do that and work it into the fibers of that paint, of that, work it into the fibers of the paper. And you want to get a complete coverage on here. And there's that. I know that was where I was headed with this. Okay, so back to this project. Now I'm going to take this varnish that I've done and I am going to cover my brick completely. This is going to do a couple of things. One, it's brown, so it's adding a little bit more rich texture to the brick and making it a little less chalky. It's varnishing the brick, but it's also going to act as an adhesive for my paper. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to cover it completely. Okay, we're almost done, guys. Just bear with me. We just got some assembly to do. Then I'm going to take this, and I like to use a bone folder or a brayer, and I'm just going to push this into and get it good and even. Now, it's going to be tough to get it really even, I mean, really, you know, push down because of the texture in the brick behind it. But if it lifts a little bit, that's okay, because that's what gives it a little character. You just want to make sure that, like right here where it's not sealed, you just want to make sure that you get a really nice coverage in here of glue. Once it's dried a little bit, it will definitely seal. And then I like to take my finger and just kind of work it in. You can also use your cosmetic sponge. The cosmetic sponge helps to put pressure and blend evenly so you don't get brush strokes. And look at how freaking cool this is. Okay? Now, put this aside, let it dry overnight. Don't mess with it anymore for tonight. But because I'm trying to teach a class, I'm going to rush it. And then we're going to do the same thing we did with the suitcase. We're going to come back and we're going to darken the edges. But this has to be completely dry before I do that. So you guys know how I did. You guys know how I did it. You know the technique. I'm going to go ahead and start assembling my canvas so we don't run out of time, and then I'll come back and show you how to add this texture and the shadows to this brick after it's dried a little bit. So this is what my finished product looks like. Okay? Are you all with me so far? Now before I start messing with this, I really need to clean off this brush. And I need to clean up my work surface a little bit. So, bear with me. Let me get it all cleaned up again. And again, if I were in a situation, I would be in my bathroom right now cleaning my brush off. Soapy water. I would just get that cleaned up, but because we're on YouTube, Ustream, I can't just up and leave. But that's good enough. I'm going to get this off my work surface and try and clean it up really good so I can start assembling my project. Now, I thought about this and I was like, okay, how am I going to give this to God on my canvas? So, you guys know I'm really, really, really in love with hymnal pages. I use them a lot. So I have a die that is the Sizzix die that is the angel wings. So I've decided to use those. Just make sure they're going in the right direction. I usually do everything upside down, but I need to really look at this for a second. Make sure my wings are going the right way. So I decided to take some angel wings, cut them out, and I'm going to use my suitcase. I'm going to put my angel wings on my suitcase. Like they've gotten wings in there and it's flying off. It's going somewhere else. And I may have to put them to the front. 'Cause see what I mean about this is just a little bit too big for this canvas. We're going to see if we can work with it and make it work. If we can't, then I might have to cut my valise down just a little bit. In fact, I think I am going to do that. And all I'm going to do to cut it down is I'm just going to come in just a little bit, and I'm going to kind of follow what the die does and just kind of rough it up a little bit. Of course, that got rid of all my texture I had on that corner right there, but that's okay. We can put it back. I don't think anybody will ever know that it is a little smaller than it used to be. Don't tell anybody. But see, now it fits a little better. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and glue my wings down. I know that that's where I want them. And then this little girl is going to go right here to the front, like this. Maybe I might have to pull my wings out like this. I'm going to pull them this way. Let's instead of down. Maybe come up a little bit. And they're upside down, aren't they? Cut them upside down. If I do it that way. That's okay. If they were flapping, they might have to be upside down. This is how my mind works, guys. Okay, so then I have these guys. I'm going to lay everything out before I glue anything down. So I'm going to put my suitcase lid up here. Then I have this guy right here. This one right here. This is going to go here. This is going to go here, like this. She's going to kind of come up here on the front. I might have to pop dot her, and that'll be okay if I do. And then where'd my tag go? Here's my tag. Then I'm going to slip my luggage tag. Well, my luggage tag's going to go right down in here. Maybe, yeah. And then maybe I'll glue this just to right here, because I want to be able to pull my tag out to do what I need to do with it. I know I said I wanted those wings to go up, but I'm thinking the more I do this, I think I might want them down, because I just don't like the idea that they're upside down. The writing's upside down. It's bothering me. They can be there without being there. She may have to go over to this side too. Okay, so you guys get the idea of where this is going. Don't cover the hole, I know. May have to move it down just a little bit. That's why I decided to move her over here, because I didn't want to cover up the hole. And I'm going to use this as a chalkboard surface to write down all of my scriptures from my class, my church class. And then I'm going to, or my sermon notes. I'm going to take this, dry it up really good. And I pulled a lot of stuff out that I may not ever use, to be honest with you. I may decide not to use it, but I have this flower here that I fussy cut from the back side of the paper that I didn't use, so it just kind of balances off her feet and things like that. And I may end up coming back and cutting her feet out, because I might decide that this is just all a little bit too much. I don't know. Then I have this chain. I'm going to bring this chain up and around. And then I also have this little locket that I want to hook the chain to. Do you guys see where I'm going with all of this? And if I have room for them, I have some arrows that I was going to tuck in here and there, which might be what ends up cutting her feet off. I mean, I may end up putting some arrows. I don't know. I want to point up. I don't know. We'll wait for those for just a minute. Okay, and I do have a title. And my title is Release Your Baggage. So let's go ahead and start getting everything glued down before we go messing with the title. So I do know that I want to keep this down here in the bottom. So again, I'm just going to pull out another one of those buckets and put some matte medium in here. I'm putting a pretty generous amount because I got a lot to glue down here. Now I'm just going to take this sponge that has a little bit of this brown on it, and I'm going to hit around the edges of this, just where I fussy cut out that white. I mean the paper. I don't want the edge of the paper to show white. And so I'm just kind of distressing it up a little bit with the varnish that I had on the sponge. It doesn't take much, but it makes a huge difference, because the last thing you want to see is that little white edge on this fussy cut stuff. So I'm going to put this down here, and I'm just going to use some matte medium, generously apply it. Pop that in the mail to you, huh? But it's going to have my baggage in it. You can make one. You can make one. I just showed you how. Okay, so I'm varnishing that down, and I want to make sure that my rose goes down into this brick a little bit. You know, it's about layers with mixed media. It's all about all these different pieces and layers, and it takes a minute for this matte medium to really grab hold on the back, because this is the wet one. So I really want to rub it in really well. Just give it a good solid coat. And you know, I might need to even make my valise a little smaller, I don't know, but I'm going to take this wing and again cover it with the matte medium on the back, and then flip it over. And I don't even care if it sticks out a little bit and it wraps around the edge of the canvas. Oh, that's another pet peeve of mine. When you do a canvas, make sure you color the edges. Go all the way around, in fact, all the way to the back. Because when it's hanging on a wall, you want to be able to see the color on the side too. Okay, so I've got it wrapped all the way around the canvas. And you know what, guys, I think what I'm going to do is put my baggage in the back, because I don't really like the way it looks on the front. So I know what my baggage is. I don't need to explain it to anybody else, and I know whenever I put it on there that it's going to be gone. Okay, where does this thing go? Where do I want this thing? I want to pull it. I got that at the wrong angle, but that's okay. Put this one roughly at the same. And glue it down. You know, one of the things my pastor said too that I thought was really hit home is that if you have all this, you know, that you're harboring in your mind, and it doesn't always have to be negative, it could be positive things, it's just things you just never got around to doing, or, you know, guilt that you have, or maybe it's a lack of forgiveness to someone, or, you know, whatever it is that's weighing you down. If you carry all of this into the new year, you can't be successful in the new year, because all of this negative energy is just weighing you down. And you know, that really hit home with me when he said that, because it's true. If you're harboring all of these bad feelings and bad vibes, or, you know, all of this stuff that you're feeling guilty for, like, oh, I didn't accomplish this, or, you know, my goal was to do this and I didn't get to it. Those are all things that the more you harbor on those things and the more you think about them, the less likely you are to get anything done in your future. So if you want to really focus on your future, you need to let go of some of the stuff that you're carrying around with you from your past. Let it go. It's in the past. Let it go. And I thought that was a really good way of thinking about it, you know. Forgiveness is probably one of the most freeing things. And when I say forgiveness, I'm not necessarily meaning to someone else. I'm saying forgive yourself, you know. Sometimes we have to forgive ourselves. That's one of my biggest problems, is I get hung up on the things I didn't do rather than seeing the things I did do. And I forget to forgive myself. What's done is done. Move on. Okay. Putting just one more coat on there. Now, how do I want to do... Where's those little pieces? Right here. So I'm going to just put a little bit of this, and I may have to come back with a little spot of hot glue, simply because these are they're not going to lay flat. So I have matte medium on them, but I'm also going to just put a little hot glue there. Where's that other one? And again, I'm going to put matte medium on them as well as hot glue. And I haven't glued down my valise yet because I'm not sure if I want to put that tag under there or not. So I'm going to glue this to here. Get it centered. Anybody have any questions? I'm so glad you guys are enjoying this. I had a lot of anxiety because it was such a spiritual thing for me, and I had a lot of anxiety about whether or not I wanted to share it with you guys. But it was something that it just, when God speaks to you in church, honey, you better listen, because there ain't nothing more powerful than the voice of God. So, I don't know. Where do I want this little chick? Where do I want Chica? It's time to remove the baggage. This guy might be what gets 86, to be honest with you. I think this canvas might be a little too small for that. I could be wrong. Let's just keep fidgeting with it. I like Chica right there. So I've got some really, really sticky pop dots here. I'll put on the back of her. And I think I really want some down here towards the bottom of her dress. And I think I really want her head to be balanced very well. We don't want her head falling off. That would be scary. That would be more scary than her not having eyes, to me. Oops. Be very careful because her neck is very thin. I really wish I looked like this chick. I really do. So that's why I used her, because I think she's super cute. Okay. Alright, I'm really happy with that. So let's go ahead and glue that part of her down. Try not to break her neck off. I think I'm going to have her come up a little high, so I might need a little bit more there on her neck, on her head. Pop it up maybe twice since I have the valise under her. Remember, don't fall in love with your background. Leave it in the background. If you're going to cover it up, look at how stinking cute she is. I'm going to write my Bible verses on here. I still haven't glued this thing down yet, but I've glued her down, which is scary because I'm going to just put some hot glue on this side right here and leave it where I can put that tag in there later if I want to. Come back over here. I need to turn this where I can see it, you guys. Bear with me for just a minute. And I'm putting a very generous amount of glue on the back of that. And then I need to put a very generous amount of glue here at the bottom. Now, if you decide to do this out of grunge board, you certainly can, but remember, hot glue does not stick to grunge board. You have to use matte medium. Okay, I really like that. So now that I have that done, I want to put some color on these wings because I don't think they should be that stark and in your face. So I'm just going to use a gold gelato. I'm just going to run a little bit on here, take my finger and work it in. I should have did this before I did her. Okay, same thing over here. And I love that I use the hymnal pages because to me the hymnal pages represent the faith part of this, is having the faith to leave it with God and know that He's in control of all things, and I don't have to be in control of it because I gave it to Him and He's going to take care of it for me. And for me to take it back means that I don't have the faith that He's capable of all things, and we all know He is. So then I'm going to take this grease pencil and I'm just going to kind of outline around those wings just to give them a little depth, shadow. And I'm hurrying through this because we're going to run short on time, so take your time, do it neatly. It's going to be hanging on your wall, remember that. Same thing over here. Just take your grease pencil. I would wait for this matte medium to dry before I use the grease pencil. It would be a little more effective that way. Okay. Also, don't forget your shadow under your valise. Or under your girl. Now you may not see it under the girl because we're going to cover a little bit of that up, but shadows are important. Even if you think you're not going to see them, put them in, because you never know what angle you're looking at a canvas from, you may see it. Same thing here, you're going to see a little bit of shadow back there, and I might not be able to get it with my finger, but I can get that brush down in there. Remember, this is just matte medium. It might be kind of milky right now, but it won't be when it's dry. And I'm going to just put one more coat over my wings to seal that gelato in because they're water-based. And one more coat over those. Now, you can see her feet where I didn't cut all of that off, so I want to cover that up a little bit. And that's where this guy might come in handy, because I might can kind of turn him this way where you can still kind of see her feet, but you know, might do that. And again, I would use glossy accents or E6000 glue on this. I will go back and drop some glossy accents behind it once I hang up with you guys. But I'm going to put this down here, I think. And then I also have on here my title that I need to get up here. But before I do that, I'm going to take my chain and I'm gonna just do a little loop, maybe down into here, back around here, back up here, and off the page. So again, E6000 glue. Hot glue doesn't hold over time, especially in hot climates. But for purposes of this, I will probably go back over the top of this with some glossy accents, just to make sure it's good and secure. And then again, I don't like to not include it on top. I want it to look like it's going in behind here. So pull it back down, and then I'll trim that off in a little bit. A little bit more hot glue in here. Then I have a locket somewhere. What did I do with it? There it is. So I'm going to take this lock because I have locked up my problems inside of here. Actually, I'm going to have this lock. I'm going to reposition that hot glue again. So much for my manicure, right? Okay, so it's all locked up, ready to go. Now, I think I'm going to throw some flowers in here. And I have a few here that I think, these are from Prima. These are the Firefly Sand Dune. I really like the colors of these. I think they kind of complement really well. And I also have a couple of sprays here. And I might want to go with this one. I like the darkness, but I also like, I'm going to go with this one. This one is called the Breton Vines Purity. I love these because I can cut them apart and I don't have to use the whole thing. So I'm going to take my wire cutters. Don't use your Timmy scissors. You'll ruin them, even though they say you can. And I'm just going to kind of work some of this down into here. Just a little bit. Kind of cover up the base of that. And don't forget, I need to cover up her feet a little bit. So I'm going to cut that vine off because I can use it somewhere else. Cut this off. I'll turn this around so you guys can see. I know what I'm going to do. And basically what I'm doing here is, even though I put this flower here, you're like, oh, why is she covering that up? Well, it was a base and it's a background. And it kind of helps to give a little depth to this. Now I want to make sure I'm covering her feet, because that spot on her foot isn't flattering, where I didn't cut her out. But I want to make sure that she's good and secure before I do that. So I'm just going to put a big glop of glue right there and let it chill for just a second. And then that makes it act like a pop dot. And I'm going to put on this leaf right here, I'm going to put a little bit more glue, and I'm going to stick it right over her foot. So you're never the wiser that her foot isn't completely cut out. And then I really like to keep with that theme of the pink, so I think I'm going to throw one of these on there. And maybe a couple more. You don't need a lot. Remember, we still have a title to put on here. But I like how these colors are intertwined, so there's more than one color here. Maybe put some to the back. And notice I didn't glue my vines completely down, because I want them to lift and have dimension as this sits off of my wall. Okay? And I think I'm pretty cool with that so far. This is matte medium up here that's white, and it will dry. Now I need to add my title. Where did it go? Okay, there's the R. I think the easiest way to do this would be to just add some matte medium. And my title is Release Your Baggage. So I'm going to add that there. And I just cut these out with my silhouette. Is everybody still with me? Y'all make sure I spell everything correctly, because that's like one of my worst nightmares. Release. And I'm just adding a little matte medium behind them and in front of them. R-E-L-E-A, right? S-E. And I'll go back over those with a grease pencil so they'll really stand out. But I just got to get them glued down. Please don't let me spell this wrong. Somebody watch. Or upside down, because I'm doing this upside down and backwards. Upside down and backwards. You guys hanging with me still? Okay, so there's release, and then here's your. Where did the other piece go? There it is. Oh, and I had this little, before I forget, I had this leaf left over from where I was fussy cutting that rose out. So I want to make sure I use it too. So I just added a little matte medium to it on the back. And I think I'm going to put it like right over here. Like that. And then matte medium it down to the wall. And then here we go with your. And I think I want to put it right here. This is going to be so cool in my room. I'm going to put it over here on the wall. I'm going to hang it up. Release your. You guys, when I do the follow-up post where I put the pictures, I will put the Bible verses on that post for you guys, the scriptures that we used, because they're probably, when I write them out on the suitcase, they're going to be hard to read because I'm going to have to write really small. So I will post them there in that post for you guys. So go check out my blog for that, psychomoms.com or psychomoms.blogspot.com. Either one will get you there. And I'll put a link in the YouTube video. I'll put a link down below. Okay, so release your. Where do I want baggage? Right here, I think. And I think I'm going to glue my baggage statement to the back of this canvas. So it's hanging on the wall, out of sight. Okay. Now, I want to make sure I get this going kind of centered. Let's see, B-A. G. Probably should have put baggage down first, then release your. Not thinking. B-A-G-G-A-G-E, right? Please somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I'm looking up. I'm looking up. All you people who can spell, let me know that I did it right. because you guys can see it before it gets permanently down and I'm embarrassed on all of the world knows I'm a terrible speller. I got a little bit of black on her face, which I think is hilarious because she looks like she's kind of tattered a little bit, like you know, scratches on her face. Kind of goes with the theme a little bit. Alright, a little more. You really want to make sure these are glued down really well. Put a lot of glue on them. Press them in. It'll dry clear, so don't worry about it being too bulky. How cool is that? Release your baggage. And then I have this little, it says Look to Jesus. This was the hymn that I took, and I didn't want to get rid of that title. I kind of liked it. Thought it went really well with my theme here. So I think I'm going to nestle it down in here, in this cluster right down here somehow. And I don't want it that like in your face white. So I'm going to let it dry a minute, and then I'm going to add some of that gesso to it. I mean that gelato to it. Okay, so now I think this is dry enough where I can write on it. So my scriptures are going to be the main important one that I want to make sure I get no matter what is Matthew 11:28. So I'm going to put that one first. And that one is come to me, all of you who are weary, and I will give you rest. So I really like that one. I want to make sure that I leave that one in there. Now all of these I can't quote. I wish I was that good, but I'm not. So then we have Proverbs, and it's 13:12. Jeremiah 6:14. First Peter 5:7. Romans 6:23. Hebrews 12:1. James 5:16. Romans 12:2. Revelations 1:18. Ephesians 4:26 through 27. Romans 12. Uh, 12:3. 1 John 1:9, I think I did already. No. 1 John 1:9. And then 2 Corinthians 10, 3 through 4. And then another quote I wanted to get on here is baggage, the stuff we carry, unpacking the burdens you were never intended to carry, which was the name of the message that day. But I don't know if I have room for it on the front because I've got it pretty crowded, typical Tonya style. But you guys get the point. So I've got, looking at this, I always like to take everything and lift it up and kind of take a look at it. There's a couple of things I want to do, and just because it's mixed media and everything needs to have a lot, right? Mixed media. I don't know, do I want to put these little chevron wooden pieces like up, pointing up? What do you guys think? Is it too much? And don't know. Nah, I don't think it's needed. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry. Anybody got any questions? I'm gonna look at this really quick. What are you trying to cut through? Cards. What are you trying to cut through with, Sandy? Is it your Cricut or your silhouette? Y'all could cut, honestly, this valise is just a rectangle, and all you really need to do is just distress the edges. You could use a distress tool and distress the edges if you wanted to. Oh, if you're using a silhouette and you're using really thin paper, you want to go to the lower dial numbers, not the higher. The higher the number. Oh, the letters. I cut this out with Marion Smith's paper, and I used it as 105-pound cardstock and let the silhouette tell me what to pick. Stampin' Up! Cardstock, I would say, is about 105. Or you know, they have two settings, cardstock and then the thicker cardstock. Just play with the scrap and see what you get. Regular cardstock, I usually cut mine at 7. My blade never really leaves between 3 and 7, ever. And my speed's usually at 1 or 2. I want this to dry because I want to go ahead and do my, while that's drying, come back. Now, really quick, because I still need to show you how to do the shadowing before okay, so I can do that really quick while I wait for this to dry. I still want to show you how I did the shadowing on this brick, because remember I moved on. So this is what our card looks like, and it's really dry now. So I'm going to take my black archival ink. Yeah, between depending on what it is, yeah. And I'm just going to rub that right over that brick, and it picks up the texture in that modeling paste really good. Look at that. You might want to use the cocoa first, like we did on the other thing, but I'm just kind of getting it worked in to the top of that brick, and it really brings out that texture. And then around the edges, I really want it dark around those edges. So I just kind of came in really heavy on the edges with the and the brown just kind of helps to tone it down just a little bit. Remember, there's matte medium on here, so if you get a little heavy-handed with the ink pad, you can always take a baby wipe and wipe it away, because the matte medium that's there on the top protects it a little bit. But that's how I got it really dark around those edges, is I just kept going back and forth with this varnish and this matte medium and just one layer over the top. But see how now you get that nice texture on the brick? See how it's brought the texture up on the brick by just hitting those high points with that ink pad? You guys see that? Isn't that cool? This is going to make a cool tag for somebody. Okay, and then let me see if there's anything else I really want to do to this. I think I just, to make these letters stand out a little more, I really want to come back. I'm going to try it with my Sharpie and just kind of trace around the edges of these lettering. This matte medium on here is not really dry enough yet for me to do this. So I'm going to wait and let it dry, and then whenever I show you guys the pictures tomorrow of the follow-up post, I will share with you. I will go ahead and color those in when this matte medium is dried, but I'm going to do the R real quick so you guys can see it. See how it helps it to stand out just by following along that one edge really well? Steal away, steal away. So there it is. There's my girl. I left her baggage. You know, you can always come back with some more little pieces of little things to tuck in here and there to kind of fill this in. I have a little pine cone left over from the December class on my desk. Maybe a little pine cone would be cute right there. What do you guys think? I don't know. And then I don't know, I'd probably put a little more filler in there, but I don't have any on my desk really. I'd have to go digging for it. But anyway, you guys get the point. I hope you guys enjoyed this class. I really enjoyed this, and I'm gonna really like having this in my craft room, I think, as inspiration. I thank you guys for sticking it out with me through this long post. There it is. There's the finished thing. Thank you guys, everyone, for coming. I really appreciate it. And again, make sure you check out my blog post. I don't know if I can get it up tomorrow, or it might be the next day before I get it up, but you guys will enjoy, I'm sure. This is, you know, like I said, it was a something that was heavy on my heart, and when God speaks to you, you just better listen, because if you don't, you know, that's part of what my baggage is I've got to start listening a little more and stop talking and stop telling God what I'm going to do, and instead listen to what He wants me to do. But anyway, so thank you guys so much for your support and for being here. I hope that we have a fantastic 2014. I know we're going to have a fantastic 2014. Our next Ustream will be resumed back on Monday. Will be the first Monday of February, and I'm not sure what we're going to do yet, but I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. And I don't know how many of you guys are actually participating in Allie Edwards's one little word, but I was thinking about it, and I think my word's going to be faith. I've mentioned that word a lot tonight, and I think it's just going to be faith. Faith in myself, faith that God's going to handle all of the things going on in my chaotic world. Having the faith to trust that I'm doing the right thing, and the faith in letting go, of the faith in knowing that I'm going to let some things go. I might have to tell some people no this year, and that's not something I do easily, but it's important. I realize that after a lot of thinking and you know, if you've got a lot going on in your world, just sometimes that little word no can give you so much peace. But having the faith to know that I made the right decision is another thing too. So I think my word this year is going to be faith. So thank you guys so much for all your support. I'm looking forward to this year. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, I think we should, and I think this baggage piece kind of goes with that one little word. And I'm probably going to really focus on it in my art journal a lot. So pay attention to blog posts, because I'll be sharing those with you guys. It's funny that my art journal, when I went back and I was reviewing it, has a lot, I mean, I use scripture a lot on my art journals. I use it a lot in my scrapbook projects, but I find that I use it a lot in my art journal, because that's my time to just sit in here and be still, be quiet. I have no agenda. My mind's just going, and me and God are having conversations, and sometimes as I'm working, a scripture will pop into my head and I'll run, go look it up, and it ends up being the focal point or the quote that goes with my I'm just doodling, I'm just sitting here babbling. You guys could go ahead and leave, but it ends up being the quote for that particular piece that I'm working on. So I don't share a lot from my art journal, because sometimes I feel like it's a kind of a private thing for me. It's my personal space. But I think it's healthy to have that little piece of yourself that you don't share with everyone. So thank you so much, Lena, and you're welcome. I'm so glad that you guys have allowed me to open up and be myself in this, and I hope I've inspired other people, and thank you so much for all your support. Good night, everybody.